All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it's week number 4, one of the biggest weeks of the entire college football season. It's locked, it's loaded, it's ready to go. We're bringing you a supersized episode this week, so make sure before we get even cruising along, you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we bring on a video. But this week was so big that I bring in my co-host, the man who knows how to talk to giants. He uses big words. My co-host, Fresh. Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
I'm absolutely fantastic, Haps. This Saturday is going to be ridiculous, magnificent, astounding. I think is to fill out those big words. Buckle up, stock up your fridge, get all your snacks ready. You're going to be locked in from when game day or big noon kickoff, whenever the pregame show you want to, by choice, SEC network, ACC, whatever, Big Ten channel, whatever network you want to watch on Saturday morning. Lock it in until, we saw last week till 2 o'clock in the morning here in the East. Just have your beverages, have your food, be ready because it's going to be a heck of a Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Be careful, though. Don't turn out like a Hardy song, wake up in a truck bed with a bottle of bourbon next to you there. So,
no, that would not be good.
Yep. All right, let's go. Our first game this week. We are going to Kansas. 3-0 BYU. The Cougars coming off a big win last week over Arkansas, facing the Rock Chalk Kansas Jayhawks. They're also 3-0. Kansas, at the time of record, is a 9-point favorite in this ball game. Over-under is set at 55 points here, Fresh. Oh, boy, howdy. This Kansas offense, pretty lethal right now, averaging over 500 yards of total offense. And you got a great running back like Devin Neal out there. So, talk to me, Fresh. How you seeing BYU versus the Jayhawks?
Well, I think this game obviously starts and ends with the two quarterbacks. Slovis, they both have had different routes. Slovis started out with big, a lot of stars, a lot of hype at USC, got injured, made his way to Pitt last year, less than spectacular, I think is probably the best way to put it. Now he's kind of found himself through the first 3 games here out there in Provo with the Cougars. They went into Arkansas last week, I think shocked everybody. No one really, the BYU was kind of muddling through the first 2 games, no one really to expect. And they were physical, they scored points, kind of turned the page and probably got people's attention. So them bringing that, now can they keep playing that same momentum? They put it all into the Arkansas game. What will they handle now when they go to Kansas? These are also another road game, back-to-back, flying halfway across the country. But the funny part is this is also a conference game. It's still very weird thinking BYU, Kansas conference game. That's going to take a while. But they got conference play starting. So now you come off that high. How do you take that into conference play? How do you take that into traveling to Kansas, where historically, this probably would have been a walkover for BYU. They would have come in and put up 60 without issue. This is the different Kansas football team. So how does Keaton Slovis match this intensity? How does he build off last week? How does his entire team build off of it and move forward? This is an area we want to watch from the offensive perspective. On the other side, Jalen Daniels did play the first game of the season, played the last 2 weeks, really got himself going really good versus Illinois in that ball game. Can he keep going? Can he stay healthy? Last year, he was flying high. They had a bunch of big wins early, and he got dinged up in that TCU game, and they kind of stumbled from there. He is the cog in the wheel for the Jayhawks. If he can stay healthy and keep being himself on the field, keep making plays with his arm, plays with his legs, that brings the entire team energy, and that gives them a chance to win football games. If that's the key for him. If he can stay healthy, keep building off, and not take those crazy hits, but also still be athletic and get it done for Lance Leipold's offense, I think they're in good shape. When looking at it, the X factor, though, you already mentioned it, Devin Neal. The 2 quarterbacks are going to be key, but he is the game changer who I think allows Daniels to be even more lethal because of both of them in the backfield with their legs, with their ability to see the defense and make the cuts on the holes, to read each other and play off each other is explosive. In the 3 games so far, he's run for 300 yards, basically 7.6 yards a carry, and 5 touchdowns, also 131 yards receiving and a touch. So he is the focal point of the offense. There's no receiver or running back that has any more total yards than him. He has 6 total touchdowns. He is the man. Daniels is going to feed off of him. He's going to feed off of Daniels. The tandem right there If they keep going, that offensive line's played pretty well so far. They dominated Illinois. Newton out there at the tackle, that Illinois defense, they got shredded. So this team has shown they can have success against a on paper good defense. But now continue to build off of that. The one thing that kind of worries me about this matchup, though, is Kansas looking ahead to Texas. They go to Texas next week. Are they thinking we got this in the bag? We got big Texas next week. Are we looking ahead? You're not there yet, Kansas. You are not a powerhouse team that you can look ahead over opponents. You've got to take it now, because if you look ahead, you lose to BYU, you lose to Texas. That's 0-2 in the league. Now you're 3-2. Now you're just another team. Be focused. Be disciplined. Play solid defense, just good enough. Get off the field. Run the football. Throw when you have to, because BYU is going to come out there with an explosive offense. And those teams, they are always disciplined, no matter who the head coach is. Obviously, going back in history to Lavelle Edwards, they are explosive on offense. They're going to throw the ball around. They're going to play physical, disciplined football. You've got to be able to restrain yourself, be prepared for an onslaught, be prepared for a wave, maintain all 4 quarters, and win the football game. But in the end, it's going to be done on the ground. You're going to have to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, maintain the clock, control the clock, and you win the football game. 9 points is a lot. It's a lot. But you know what? Give me the 9. I'm going to say Jayhawks at home win by 10. Go to 4-0, set up a big battle, most likely a ranked matchup in Austin, Texas. They take care of it. BYU comes out early strong, but Kansas finds a way to make adjustments at halftime and run it down their throat in the second half, get a 10-point win. The over will hit, because they're going to be scoring back and forth. It's going to be an exciting football game. Tune in for that one, folks. But the Jayhawks are going to get it. They're going to cover the spread, and they're going to get a dub and go to 4-0.
Fresh, you made some great points here. This Kansas offense is lethal, and they've done a great job. Daniels has looked phenomenal in the 2 games he's played. Neal is running the ball. He's got over 300 yards so far. Found the end zone 5 different times. And they got this defensive lineman who I'm pretty high on. 3 sacks already early on the season. Guy's been a wrecking ball in the middle of that K-State Kansas defense. So there. The thing that is a little weird for me, though, Kansas has forced 5 fumbles on the year, hasn't recovered a single one. And they need to really increase on the turnover battle here, because you're going up against a BYU offense, and if BYU can kind of make this game very similar to the Arkansas game. Now, I don't think Kansas is going to give them 14 penalties for like some weird amount, like 140 some yards in penalty yardage. I don't think you're going to get that. But BYU is a very balanced offense. They're not the same teams we saw with, Zach Attack a couple years, who was slinging the ball all over the place. You talk about the running game that they've had. They're becoming a little more balanced on the pass and the run here. If they can wear down Kansas, if they can extend these drives, go on long 5-6 minute drives, eat up a lot of time, win the time of possession game, this game could get very dangerous for Kansas. Now, I do think Kansas is a more talented team. I love this Kansas offensive line. The Jayhawks really know how to hit you in the mouth, especially on the outside. You talked about the tackles out there. Love this offensive line that's going on there. But the great thing about Kansas, the thing that really makes me think that Kansas is going to win this game, and I'll go back to the point spread here in a second, though, is that Kansas in the last 2 weeks is 16 for 24 on third down. 2 weeks ago, they're 9 for 13, and then last week they were 7 for 11. So when it matters most, when you can keep a drive going and not have to go and give your defense a little bit longer to rest, not bring out the punt team, it really helps you take control of a game. If this game was in Utah, I would have a little bit closer on this. I still think I'd pick Kansas to win, but I'd have this game being almost a field goal game if it was in Utah. I'm going to say this. I'm going to take Kansas to win. That 9 points is a lot of points for me in this one, because I have a lot of respect for BYU, what they're able to do. I have this as a touchdown game. I have right around the 7.5 mark for me. I'm going to say Kansas by 6 in this game. And I'm actually going to take the under, because the reason why I'm taking the under, not because I don't think these two offenses can score. I think both of these teams are going to play a long drive game. I don't think there's going to be a lot of quick scores in this game. I think the points are going to come at a at a premium because I think you're going to score. But I should say defense is going to be at a premium. Who's going to make 2 or 3 stops? Like, I think both these teams are going to get about 8-9 possessions, and then it's only going to take about 2 or 3 stops to one of them is going to figure out a way to beat the other one. But I'm going to say Kansas by about a touchdown this game, and I'm actually going to take the under.
Whew. Folks, this is going to be an exciting ball game, especially if both offenses get going early because they'll start trading points.
Right, absolutely. All right, Fresh. Let's go to Happy Valley, Pennsylvania. We got whiteout conditions. This game's at 7:30. Ooh, Iowa traveling to Penn State. Penn State at the time of record is a 14.5-point favorite in this game. And the over-under is set at 40.
Normally, you would think this was an amazing 7:30 kick, but this is actually the B side of the track for the 7:30 kicks on Saturday night because there's a couple
Wow.
other games that are a little more high profile, and that just tells you how packed this weekend is. But looking at this, the biggest test that I want to see is Penn State's offense versus Iowa defense, and that's where I look at it first because there's only 2 teams in the nation that have not turned the ball over. Do you know who those are, Seth?
One's got to be Iowa.
Penn State and Oregon, the only 2 teams in the country who do not have a turnover so far this season. Will Iowa be able to force turnovers on Drew Allar and his running backs to stem the tide? It's going to be hostile conditions. You mentioned the whiteout. Anytime there's a whiteout, somehow the players play out of their souls. Like they're just completely different players when they put the jersey on. They run out in that entire stadium. They're in Happy Valley. It's just completely white. Will that Penn State defense, will that Iowa defense be able to load up and stem the tide, take the crowd out of it, slow down this offense, force turnovers, make it a nasty, ugly ball game? Because we already know Bryant Ferentz offense is horrific. I don't care what you talk about Cade McNamara, a new quarterback, and this thing's going to light it up. We're going to score points. Cade McNamara himself 417 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. It's the same offense. Their quarterback is there's nothing different. They're going to go 4 yards in a cloud of dust, punt every second drive. If they get 10 points out of the offense, they're lucky. They need defensive scores to win, and there's no different in this football game. They're going to need a pick six or a fumble, something to spark that team, something to do some scoring for them because their offense is already limited, and that Penn State defense is already worth their salt. It's not like you're playing an offense that is terrible and a defense that's mediocre, and you can be able to squeak by like they did versus Iowa State. That's not the case. You're going up against a powerhouse football team on the road, backs against the wall, with basically trying to play with an arm tied behind your back. You've got to be creative. I expect Iowa to pull out all the stops, trying to pull out some crazy plays. Coach Ferentz going into that deep pocket, trying to be unusual, to do whatever he can to score points. The punter can't kick the ball 40 times this ball game. They can't kick field goals to beat Penn State. They've got to score touchdowns, and that means the defense is scoring. The defense is going to have to score. So expect them to try to even get more reckless, trying to force fumbles, strip the ball out, playing at an intense level early on to stem the tide and survive. If Iowa can survive the first half, maybe wear them down, they have a chance. If Penn State comes out and starts putting their foot down early, that team will quit. There's just not enough offensive firepower for the Hawkeyes to get in a shootout. They've got to dictate the terms themselves. And that's what kind of worries me about this, because if this was a noon kickoff or an 11 a.m. kickoff, you know what? Iowa has a chance. But with night, with the whiteout conditions, that place is going to be raucous, and that's going to give them energy to come out and strike early and often. And if you already get down by 10 points right off the bat, you're in trouble. I have no thought in my mind against the fact that Penn State can't cover. It's 14.5, and I think they can cover the 14.5. They could score 2 touchdowns, get a field goal, and be 17-0 at halftime, and the ball game's over. Like, that's how low expectations I have for that Iowa offense. And that's exactly what's going to happen on Saturday night. This is going to be an ugly football game. You're probably not going to watch it. If you're going to see it in the box score the next day, it's going to be on one of those, tree in the woods. If it falls, does anyone actually hear it? Because everyone's going to be watching other games. It's going to be 17-0, maybe 20-3 game. Penn State's going to win. They're going to cover. The over will not hit, even though the over-under is at 40.5. I think that's still take the under there, because we saw last week with Penn State's offense, there were some times where they weren't exactly fluid. They looked a little clunky versus Illinois. I don't expect that to improve. I expect them to do just enough against a stout defense and strangle them and win the football game, take out and deflate the ball. and get out of there with the big dub. Very defense heavy, but they do cover the spread.
So Iowa's run defense should pose like a real challenge for Penn State because that's going to be the interesting thing. Iowa's got the talent to sell out against the run and put this ball game into Drew Allar's hands. That's really what it comes down to. You know, we've talked a couple of times about Penn State in our preseason and early on the season. We've talked about how great these two running backs and Allen and Singleton are. This is going to be the first game that we're going to see whether or not the young quarterbacks got what it takes to win big time games. Yeah, the lights are bright for this, and it's a daunting environment for an opposing team, especially like the Hawkeyes, to come into Happy Valley and try to win this game. You know who else it's a daunting environment for? A young quarterback. And a young quarterback going up against a defense that has the potential to sell out the run and stop your running game and force you to throw the football all over the field. But while I think that's the big question, I think the other question for me, Fresh, is whether or not Iowa can get to the 25-point mark. I think that's actually the magic number for Iowa to be in this football game. I know everyone's made jokes about the contract, about he's got to score more than 25 points a game, and the Iowa offense has got to do all of this stuff. I really think that that's what it's going to come down to. Is Iowa going to be able to cross that mark? So then I started thinking about this here, Fresh. Cade McNamara. We're not talking about Spencer Petras here. We're not talking about, the ineptitudes of quarterback. Cade McNamara has had some success. In 21, when McNamara was the quarterback of the Wolverines there, he had 3 touchdowns and over 200 yards passing at Penn State. The Wolverines won that game. Big win out of them. Now, I think the Wolverines probably have a little bit better receivers. They might have a little bit better running game there. But Iowa's got no slouch of a running game. They're averaging over 150 yards on the ground again. Can they do this versus Penn State? Because Penn State is allowing less than 100 yards rushing. Now, Penn State's played West Virginia, Delaware, Illinois. But here's the thing that scares me about this game, Fresh. Here's the one thing that scares me. Since James Franklin has been at Penn State, he's remade this entire program. He's made it in his image, and Penn State is well back to respectability throughout the entire country. Penn State is not a disgraced program like they once were, with all the stuff that went on over about a decade ago. The only thing that concerns me with James Franklin is that there's always one game a year that's a James Franklin game, where James Franklin makes some boneheaded mistake and all of a sudden Penn State is either losing a game or they're down when they shouldn't be. Kirk Ferentz has been doing this a long time. Is he still the longest tenured coach at any program? I believe he is.
Yes.
He's been doing this a long, long time. And he's a good coach. Iowa's a respectable program for this long, and you don't stay around this long if you're not a good coach. I would be a moment where I could see Iowa out-coach Penn State. Now, is that good enough to win? No, I don't think. I think Penn State's a more talented football team. It wouldn't shock me if Iowa wins, but I'm thinking Penn State's got this one pretty much in the bag. The 14.5 is a little too high for me. I'm actually going to take Iowa in the points. I actually got Iowa right around the 10-point mark for me, so right around 10. And I'm going to take the over. Here's the reason why I'm taking the over here, Fresh. First 3 games this season, Iowa has scored 20, 24, 41. First 3 games this season for Penn State, 30, 36, 38, and 63. Both of these teams can put up enough offense to get past a 40 mark. I'm hammering the over in this game. And I'm going to take Iowa in the points a little bit, just because I think Iowa's going to do just enough to keep it close, but I'm taking Penn State to win outright.
That's a lot of confidence in them both, both those offenses scoring some points.
Yeah, I think Penn State can do it. It really is going to come down to Aller, because if Drew can throw the ball all over the place and really if he can make a couple of big time throws, because I think Iowa's going to fully sell out against the run to stop the 2 running backs. I mean, I would if I was running this. If I'm going into a hostile environment and I'm loading 8 in the box and I'm making the young quarterback throw it all over the field and beat me. And if he's able to do that, they'll put up points pretty quick. It also could be a recipe for a disaster.
Good point. If they win this, the West is all but Iowa's to lose. If they pull off this upset.
Right. All right, Fresh. Let's go out west. Both these teams are 3-0. The Oregon State Beavers building that dam in Corvallis, and the Washington State Cougars. At time of record, Oregon State is a 3-point road favorite. Over under is set at 56 points. Is this the Homeless Bowl?
It's the Pac-2 Bowl. It's kind of like you
Pac-2
go to
Bowl.
you go like a restaurant, like you have like the Pick-2. This is the Pac-2.
It's like Keno. I like Keno.
Yep.
All right,
Fun
Fresh.
stuff.
Oregon State, Washington State. This is going to be a great game. Folks, this is one of those games where I'm going to go out on a limb and say, this is one of those games that you don't want to miss. You don't want to miss an opportunity to see this game. I know that there's always going to be other stuff on. There's always going to be other games. This game is at 7 o'clock on Fox. If you can, have a second TV on, because this is going to be a really good matchup between these two. All right, Fresh, I'll turn it over to you. What you got going on for these two?
I mean, first off, everyone wants to look at the quarterbacks. Cam Ward for Washington State, who is a machine.
Right.
Probably one of the most I think if Penix Jr., Caleb, Shador, he would be up there he'd be the fourth best. He's the fourth best quarterback in the Pac-12. But when all those other guys are getting all the accolades, you kind of just get put down the pecking order, which is a shame. So if you really haven't seen him play, watch it just for him, because he will also make you like, wow, he has legs. He can run. He can throw. He's just as elite the rest of the guys. The dude's a dude. On the other side, DJU finding some resurgence now. He's got out of Clemson, and we're starting to maybe see. Maybe it was more about Dabo in that offense, and maybe the playmakers weren't exactly the best, because he's looking okay so far. Past those two, both these teams are battle tested. You think 3 games and you played some scrappy teams, but these guys have actually combined. They've beaten San Jose State, San Diego State, Wisconsin, and Colorado State. All 4 teams, the 3 of them at least, are very well respected. In Colorado State, but they're showing what they did versus Colorado. They have some talent there too. They haven't shied away from playing anybody, and they've come out and they've dominated all those football games. These teams are battle tested. They've played hard. They had to show up from day one and get the job done, and that's put them in a spot right now. Now they are ready for conference play, and we all know the Pac-12 this year, I'm going to say it at this point, is the best league. I think everybody's been saying it. It's amazing at top to bottom. The depth of the conference has been fantastic. So you being 3-0, coming into this, your expectations now are even elevated. Obviously, both these teams are ranked. So you're not going to see slouches. You're not going to see rusty starts. These teams are there. But on the other side of that, who's ready for the pressure? The spotlight now is on the Cougars and the Beavers. Which of these teams is actually going to show up? Because this is only week 1 of conference play. It's only going to build if you keep winning, and the games are going to get tougher. Who's ready for that spotlight? Who wants to handle it and can handle and be able to keep their composure, play in and play out, game in and game out, starting from here and going forward? That's what I want to see. Where is the spotlight too big for them when the lights are the brightest? Both defenses have been very, very effective so far in the season. Washington State's defense allowed 24 points or less in each of their games so far, and Oregon State has allowed 17 points or less in every game, and a total of 33 points. That's 11 points a game. I mean, these defenses have been executing, getting off the field, 3-and-outs, turnovers. What do they have to do? But they are not letting anyone else on the scoreboard. So kind of a good balance where your offense has been effective, your defense has been elite. Who's going to break in this football game? This game's up in Pullman, Washington, up in there in the Paloofs. It's a long way to travel, and it's the middle of nowhere. So, it's a distance. You're going to have to hike. Who's ready to make that trip? Who's ready to get out there in the middle of nowhere in a hostile environment and be able to settle down and play? Cam Ward and that Washington State offense, they're 3rd in the nation, averaging 397 yards passing a game. They are throwing the ball all over the place. Watch out. If this game gets out of control and those receivers start moving around, it could be a long night for that Oregon State defense and basically show that they haven't really played anybody. And those 17 points, a game or less in all those games was just in a mirage and nothing truly factual. DJ is the quarterback for the Beavers. He's important. He can't mess it up. He's got to make some big plays, got to make some big throws. But their offense truly is going to revolve around Damian Martinez, the running back. He he started off last year with a bang, had a great year. He's picking up right where he left off. But he's got to get going early. If he gets going early, it really fits in the entire Jonathan Smith offense of run the football, manage down distance, play action off of that, keep the quarterback out of bad situations, keep the quarterback out of bad down and distance. Do not put your offensive line in situations where it's pass only and that pass rush can get home and get a head start. If Martinez is going and the whole group of running backs are going, the offensive line's going, that offense flows. That's got to be the key for the Cougars. Shut down that running game, shut down Martinez, and force DJU to throw the ball. Force him to be desperate. Force him to get in a shootout. If you can put the points up quick and keep that offense back out there and put them on a point where they can't dictate the flow, that actually spells desperation. And we've seen that DJU at Clemson, where if it's desperation time, you have to start putting 3 or 4 receivers out there and you are no longer in charge of the game flow. You you kind of start choking, maybe taking too many chances that you shouldn't. There's one thing about taking a chance on a play action or a 2nd and 10 from the 50-yard line where you can let it fly. You have nothing to worry about. There's something when you're down by 10, 15, 20 points and you guys start throwing it every single play and playing a little more upbeat and bad things start happening, things start spiraling out of control. Which offense is going to dictate the pace of the game and the flow of the game? I really, really want the Cougars to win this, but I think the Beavers are much more of a battle-tested football team after their success last year in bringing back almost everybody. I think Jonathan Smith is a little more of a better coach, going to have them more prepared for the spotlight. They get it done. They go on the road. It's only a 2.5-point spread there in favor of the Beavers. I think they cover that easily. Oregon State gets a big, big win in the Palouse. But you're going to see a great showing from both these teams. It's not going to be because one team is terrible or they suck. It's going to be a battle to the end. They're going to win probably 6 points, but they're going to survive the trip. And they're going to get home, get out of there with a W. But both teams will put on a good showing. The over-under is 56. They will clear that in street shoes. Put money on it. Run it all the way. It's going to happen.
Fresh, I'm with you. DJU's looked great. He's got to increase that completion percentage a little bit, but he looks like a different quarterback than what we saw at Clemson there. He's not exactly what he was coming out of high school, but he's better, and that's the good thing. But the star for Oregon State, everything starts with Damian Martinez, man. Kid's got 40 carries, 350 yards on the season. He's only found the end zone once, which kind of like shocked me a little bit when I was looking at some of his tape. He's averaging 8.8 yards a carry. It's going to be interesting. Can Washington stop the running game, especially for Oregon State? Really, the Beavers' defense has been what I've been really looking at, though, is they have 12 sacks on the year already in 3 games. So they're definitely getting pressure in this. Can Cameron Ward be able to handle that type of pressure? They're also allowing less than 60 yards rushing a game. Both of these teams are really, really good against the run. This is going to be a tight matchup. I'm looking to see who makes a big play. Damian Martinez is my choice. I think this is going to be one of those show me games. Let me introduce myself to the rest of the nation, show you how great of a running back I am. I hope people are going to tune in because think about this. At this time, you got Penn State, Iowa playing, Ohio State, Notre Dame playing. Trying to think who's the other 7 o'clock time slot one game is fresh.
There's a Baylor Texas game, Mississippi State, South Carolina. There's every network is going to have some solid matchup on it. That 7 to 7:30 window.
Right. So, and that's the other thing. Arkansas LSU is at 7. I hope people tune in for this game because I really, really think that this is going to be the best game of the evening when you talk about, oh man, did you see that game? I think it's going to be one of those games that those who did watch it are going to talk about it because I don't think a lot of people did see it. And that's unfortunate to me because I think this is going to be just a shootout between these two. Again, give me the Beavers in this. I like Beavers with more than 3 there, so give me them almost at a touchdown game. And I'm with you, Fresh. Give me the over after that 56 point there.
I mean, we're going to see if Washington State pulls this off. I think that's a major, even just tip of the cap to what they've done there in that staff, and
Wow.
they, quietly just built the program there and really could. They're now a challenger.
Right. It's interesting because either if whoever wins this game, both of these teams, and this is funny because whoever wins this game is going to lead into our next matchup here in a second because these two teams play these two teams then the following week. So both teams are going to have a back-to-back ranked matchups here. But you know what the interesting thing with me, Fresh, is whoever wins this game, we need to start putting some serious respect on their name. We were high on Oregon State. We saw all of the talent that was coming back for Oregon State. We told people at the beginning of the year, don't sleep on the dam builders out there in Corvallis, man. Those Beavers are phenomenal. And the Cougars have kind of been a nice surprise. Like, I didn't expect them to be a ranked team, and they've played really well. So hats off to them. I feel bad that neither one of these two teams have a home next season because if both of these teams are in the top 15, and they start saying, hey, we're going to be competitive, do people start calling them?
Well, there's a rumor right now with the whole Michigan State Mel Tucker thing that both these coaches are probably hot in that discussion. And if those teams don't find a home, there's no point. There's no
Right,
reason for them not to leave and go to the Big Ten. You have a better situation there, and you coach at a higher level. I'd find it really tough for Jonathan Smith since he's a Oregon State alum, but Dickert there at Washington State, he's born and raised in Wisconsin. It's kind of the same, Midwestern, upper Midwest.
right,
That might come calling, and he might go home.
right.
Well, relatively home.
Relatively. Go over the Big Ten country, back to Big Ten country, but Big Ten country is about ready to stretch coast
So
to coast.
might
All
as
right,
well add
man.
Hawaii while you're at it.
Yeah, might as well. And Alaska. Um, I just want to play games in Anchorage in December. All right, Fresh, let's go to our next game of the week, or next game this week here. It's the UCLA Bruins. Both of these teams are 3-0 as well. Shows how great the Pac-12 is right now. UCLA's 3-0. They're traveling to Utah, Salt Lake City, or no, Provo. Salt Lake. I was right the first time. What am I doubting myself here? Utah is a 4.5-point favorite at time of record. Over-under is set at 51 points. Chip Kelly, there was a lot of speculation. Who is he going to go as quarterback for the season? Chip Kelly goes with the freshman, Dante Moore. Kid is starting off. He's been electric in the first 3 games of the season, especially for a freshman. Coastal Carolina, San Diego State. All right, whatever. I'll talk about. We'll kind of avoid last week's game. But kid's got 7 touchdowns to 1 interception. He's been absolutely fantastic. You got the two-headed monster. He's got a nice backfield back there for him. Now comes the test. Because remember, Fresh, Utah has not lost a home game in 2 years. So this is going to be a huge challenge for Chip Kelly and the UCLA Bruins. This is gut check time for them because if UCLA wins this game, all of a sudden they're a big-time contender. They hold the win over Utah. But really the question to me is when is Utah going to get Cam Rising back? And with how Nate Johnson's been playing, do they make that move?
Well, the first thing I looked at was UCLA quietly 3-0. Obviously Moore did not start the opener, but he kind of worked himself into the lineup and just been flashing in practice and just gradually gotten better and better and better. And when you start producing and you're getting the NIL money and you're a highly recruited player, you can't keep that talent on the sideline very long. But now this is his first real game against a true legit defense. What is Kyle Whittingham and that defense going to show him that he's never seen before? They're going to come out there and bring him different looks. They're going to have late movement, late dropouts, late blitzes. They're going to give him a lot to look at, a lot of window dressing that's going to create confusion. Because the offense for Chip Kelly is the same. That's not going to change. It's the running backs. It's a lot of movement and shifts on his own end, and the quarterback being able to be mobile. Whittingham knows this. He's faced it before. He faced it when they were at Oregon. He's faced him here now, last year, and the year before. He understands what Chip Kelly's trying to do. You have a freshman quarterback, his first ever road start. I expect to see them come after him with a lot of different unique, exotic looks and try to make him feel uncomfortable or get, rustled. He's going to have some timeouts. He's going to see some things he's never seen before. You're going to see maybe taking sacks he shouldn't take or making bad reads in the passing game early on. It's going to take a while for him to get comfortable. Obviously, Chip Kelly's going to try to develop him. They've had 3 games worth of film, but so is Utah, and they've been probably looking at this ball game like, what can we do to really bring different looks? Maybe do we drop everybody in the box? Do we drop everybody out? Do we bring strength? And what can we really do to mess with this kid? He's never actually seen a true, legit defense in front of him, and he's going to see that on Saturday. That's what I want to see. But the way that you help that is you go to the running backs. And you mentioned the pair. Right now, UCLA is averaging 270 yards a game, which is 3rd in the nation on the ground. Carson Steele come up from Ball State. He picked up right where he left off last year there in the MAC. And then TJ Harden, they're combined 476 yards on 55 carries and 4 touchdowns. But there's also a third running back who's got himself very involved, and that just gives you more flexibility. And that's Anthony Adkins, 15 carries, 122 and a touch. So the 3 of them, if they get heavily involved in the running game, help keep the down distance like we just talked about in the last game, manage the flow of the football game. If you can run the ball and your offensive line can get downhill, the exotic looks aren't going to be as disparaging or confusing because you're running the ball down their throat. It's not put in the quarterback's hands to truly have to make a decision once the snap is made. Now, pre-snap reads, you're going to look to the sideline like usual. They're going to see it. They're going to know if they're going to run or not. It's really, is Chip Kelly seeing something new, or is he getting confused? Is Dante Moore's the same way? Are they all on the same page? If they are, this could be an exciting football game for them. If he does get flustered early and they can't run the football at the line of scrimmage, it could be a very, very long learning lesson for this UCLA young offense. Because last year, DTR, Bobo, Charbonnet, etc., they had veterans on that offensive side of the ball for the Bruins. They don't have that this year. This is going to be a big test. How do they react? You mentioned Cam Rising. Is he ever going to make the debut? I got a feeling this is kind of the game they were hoping to get him ready for. We still have not heard word if he's going to be playing or not. They've been able to survive 3 football games. They're much more battle-tested with a win over Florida and a win at Baylor. So the quarterback play, they've been able to assess what they have as the backups, going to get offense to build around them, to fill in the gaps. The defense has played at a high level. If Rising comes back, the team will be better. If not, I think they're very confident in the quarterbacks they have. They've been able to learn and develop and play Utah football, which is nasty, rough, line of scrimmage dominance, offensive line, defensive line, run the ball, play action, tight end, force turnovers. They don't need to be flashy. There's not 4 or 5 receivers not throwing for 1,000 yards a ball game. All they care about is winning. You know what? That's why Kyle Whittingham is much more like an NFL coach. I don't care what the scoreboard says. I don't care if it's I win by 70. All I care about is winning. Winning is what matters. In the NFL, winning matters. It doesn't care if it's pretty or not. You get a W at the end of the day, you get a W. I think we kind of lose that in college football, where winning is winning, and that you keep winning 1 week to the next. That's all that matters. They still have to keep playing you, and you have to play them and win the football game. I don't care if you win by 70 or 1, you still won the ball game. That's what Whittingham, I think, preaches to the program. We're going to come in here, we're going to win the football game. We're going to win it one way or the other. We're just going to win. That's all I care about. That's all you care about. That's all the fans care about is just a W. We'll be ranked wherever we're ranked. It's just a number in front of our name. That's what he's been preaching to the program ever since he got there. And I got a feeling that's going to be a big case in part of the preparation this week. Is we just win the ball game. I don't care how pretty it is. The Utes are favored by 4.5. It's at home. We saw a flashy offense a couple years ago when USC showed up, when Oregon showed up, and they come in there and they get beat. I'm not doubting Kyle Whittingham. I'm not doubting the Utes. Utah wins by 10. The over-under also hits at the over of 52, maybe 55 points somewhere in there. Utah gets it done. This is another chance for them to prove the entire country that they know what they're doing and they're a proud program and they can play football there in Salt Lake City. And they don't care about the flashy blue, uniforms from Hollywood there in Pasadena. They're going to get rough and tumble. They're going to get it done. Utes win. Utes win running away.
All right, Fresh. Well, I thought about this very, very long. I've kicked it around a few times. I think the game's going to come down to for UCLA, who's going to draw the matchup against Money Parks against the Utes. Is it going to be one of these 2 senior defensive backs? Is it going to be the freshman that's kind of making a name for himself on that defense? And the other thing I'm going to ask, the question I really need to know the answer to, Latu Atu. He has 4 sacks on the year. Is he able to get pressure? Does Utah have an answer for him? Do I have to keep one of my really good tight ends who's a great receiving threat? Do I need to keep him in to block and have an extra blocker? Do I need to have the running back chip? If Cameron Rising's not playing in this football game and they're going to go with Johnson again, is he able to read that defensive pressure and to avoid it when it's barreling down on him? Fresh, I love Utah. And I love Kyle Whittingham. I think he's one of the best coaches and don't think he gets enough credit because of how much he develops his football players. Utah always has a team that's ready to play. Chip Kelly is a great college coach as well. He gets a bad knock for what he did in the NFL, but the guy's been a great college head coach. Whether it was at Oregon, whether it was at Delaware, whether it was at UCLA. Dante Moore's looked really good. If the Utah defense can confuse Moore, I think that this easily comes in on the under. I don't think that they'll score the over in this one if Utah's defense can confuse him. But all good things must come to an end. Utah's starting to show cracks in their armor. They're not running the ball as well as they have in years past. There's certain times where I'm like, it's not that great. In the 2 games, I'm not counting the Weber State game. I'm counting just the Florida game. I'm counting the Baylor game. They're 25% on third down. Utah is 6 for 24. That number right there is what's keeping Kyle Whittingham up at night. They have to be better on third down. You cannot give the ball back to UCLA's offense over and over and over again. If UCLA gets you into third down and you're only converting those to 25% of the time, watch out. UCLA could win this game going away. They have the horses, they have the speed, they have the ability to do that. It's really, really tough for me to pick against Utah. It's really, really tough. I got UCLA winning this game, pulling the upset in a nail biter. Down, I'm going to say they're going to be needing a last-second field goal in this game. I think that RJ Lopez is going to gear up for like a 45-yarder as time expires, something along those lines. Give me UCLA by a point in this game. I think this is really going to be a close one. And I'm going to say this. I'll take the over as well. I think the over is going to come in right around the 52-53 mark as well. I think this is going to be close, but I think UCLA pulls the upset and the over comes in.
So are you saying this is the downfall, the beginning of the end for the Utah program?
I'm not saying it's the downfall because I think that they really need Cam Rising back. If you were able to confirm Cam Rising is playing in this game, and I don't have that confirmation. I've been looking for it everywhere, trying to get an injury update on. If he was playing in this game, I'd change my pick. Utah wins this game. I'd say Utah end that 4.5 points. Cam Rising is a huge difference maker for me. Dante Moore is huge because when you have young kid versus young kid, I'm going to take the running game because I think UCLA's running game is a little bit better than Utah's right now. But if I go Dante Moore versus Cam Rising, I'll take the experienced quarterback over a running game. That's really where I get caught up in this whole thing.
That works. That makes sense.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. From the West Coast, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The Ole Miss Running Rebels traveled to Tuscaloosa and faced a very criticized Crimson Tide team, apparently. Alabama is a 7.5-point favorite at the time record. Over under set at 55.5. Fresh, go ahead. You're shaking your head already.
I mean, has anyone? Did we not watch Alabama? How terrible they've been the past 2 weeks, and someone's giving them a 7-point favorite. I mean, 3 if you're at home, but not 7. There's too much, maybe a little bit love. And we're looking at Nick Saban, who's been there forever, instead of actually looking at the product on the field, which has been downright atrocious. Apparently, they had a players-only meeting. What is that? Because they all met in study hall. players only meeting. This is they lock themselves in the locker room. Come on, you guys know what you're doing. You're Alabama. You should already have all the answers. You shouldn't have to talk to each other. It should be figured out and playing football. You go down to USF. There's been Pee Wee football teams that have had a better display offensively than what you guys did. If you played anyone else, you would have won by more. But the Bulls, it's the second year in a row they put a scare to an SEC team. And you know what happened to that team? That the last year, Florida went 6-7. You looked a lot like that Florida team from last year, where it was disarray on offense. Defense was getting run over. There's still a video of Caleb Downs getting completely trucked by a USF running back. This is not the Alabama team of old. They play with a little extra emotion against Texas in the first half, and then that second half, especially the fourth quarter, Texas destroyed them. And they have not looked anything. Even in the week one, I don't care, Middle Tennessee State, this Alabama team has not looked like an Alabama team since 2008. Maybe this is the 2009 version. This is what we're getting, the original Nick Saban Alabama version. Nothing in between that has looked like what we're seeing right now. This is not Alabama. All due respect, we wanted to give them the props, but all those recruits that they brought in, that best class in the country last year, there's a lot of disconnect. Those kids aren't performing. They're not up in the depth chart. They're not getting it done. But it really comes down to the quarterback. Is it Milroe? They named him the starter again. I think they named the starter because they need a guy who could run around and get away because the offensive line's too terrible. That's what he did versus Texas. The only reason he was able to survive and give the offensive line some sort of points because he could run. The offensive line isn't blocking anyone. They can't run the ball. They're not physical at the line of scrimmage. Their quarterbacks are running forever. Receivers aren't making plays. I don't care what you say about Jermaine Burton. He did not go make him his NFL style better by going to Alabama and leaving Georgia. Those receiver talent, they're not making plays. They're not getting separation. The running backs aren't running hard. The offensive line's not blocking anybody. They're just desperate to find a quarterback. Tommy Reese, I think, is also in over his head as the offensive coordinator. He has no idea what the heck to do. There's a picture, there's a video of him versus Texas. He's up in the press box holding his head. I think he's trying to figure out what to call or who to call or what players he has. He has no idea what's going on. Saban's not yelling at anyone. I said it after the Texas loss. And Milroe made an interception. If that was 3, 5, 6 years ago, he's lighting people up. He's pulling them off the side. He's going off on the OC. He's getting the quarterback. He's coaching them up. No, Saban walked the complete opposite direction. Didn't even acknowledge Milroe. Didn't throw his headset. Hasn't done all year. He is a different guy. Maybe he knows, and he's just, I'm not going to make a scene. But there's definitely something wrong with whatever this program is right now. It is at multiple levels. You see Lane Kiffin coming out this week talking about Kevin Steele's not actually calling the plays. Tavares, the defensive backs coach is actually calling the plays. Well, Tavares Robinson's pretty skilled. He's been coaching throughout the SEC. He played at Auburn. He has, learned under Will Muschamp, who learned under Nick Saban, all in that same system. Kevin Steele in the same. It doesn't matter who. It's the same kind of guy. But there's definitely something going on within that coaching staff, and even Saban kind of acknowledged it. We changed up our communication patterns to get in there quicker and get better messages to our players. So something's going on coaching staff-wise defensively, something's going on coaching staff offensively, and nothing is clicking right now for the Tide. This is a scary scene. The last time Alabama lost 2 games before October 1st was 2007. That was Nick Saban's first year in Tuscaloosa when they lost to Georgia and FSU in back-to-back weeks. We are on the verge of that. That could happen on Saturday. The last time Alabama had 2 losses at home was that same year, 2007. They actually had 3 that year, Georgia, LSU, and UL Monroe. They've already lost to Texas. They lost to Ole Miss. That's 2. And they got Tennessee coming. They got LSU coming. It could start spiraling out of control real quick. There's no, quarterback coming to save the day right now. We've already seen what they have. There's no receivers. There's no Julio Jones or Calvin Ridley on the team. There's no Derrick Henry in the backfield right now. They have nothing that as an elite player that they used to have in the past. They have highly recruits, but these guys are not developed. They're not playing at that high level. It's not just on offense. It's not just on defense. Where's Kool-Aid at? He's not shutting anybody down. I haven't seen Dallas Turner make a true play on the edge. They're not getting production from any of their superstars, any of their leaders. It's just a blind path of thinking Saban's going to save them. And that's a scary thing when you have Lane Kiffin coming in with former Alabama defensive coordinator Pete Golding. He was run out of Tuscaloosa by the fans. Nick Saban got rid of it because he couldn't shut it down. There's obviously been, respect but beef between Lane and Nick, this is a ripe opportunity for Ole Miss. When they've gotten it done, but not the Lane Kiffin Ole Miss teams, but in the past they won back-to-back versus Alabama. They have a chance of really changing the tide of the SEC West and getting it done. Because Alabama has A&M coming, they have Tennessee coming. This could start spiraling out of control, but Ole Miss could be the first one to really open up the dike and to let the water start flowing through by taking them out in Bryant-Denny. This offense has been very successful. Jackson Dart's been pretty efficient with the passing game. They've had receivers catching the ball. They've been scoring a ton of points. Their defense has been playing a little better. They haven't been amazing, but they've been playing a little better just to balance out the offense. If Kayshawn Junkins can be healthy for this football game and be the lead back for the Ole Miss Rebels, they can go into Tuscaloosa and put a big W on the board and really heat up the rumors about what's going on there in Alabama, and is Nick Saban going to retire? There's been rumors about that. Maybe he looks dejected, looks checked out. That could really heat those things up if this team does not show up on Saturday and take out Ole Miss, because Ole Miss is hungry. They have a big opportunity in front of them. They can get this win. They become the favorites right there in the SEC West to make a run, and it really changes the landscape of everything. So how will this game go? Will Alabama show up? Will that players-only meeting motivate that entire roster to defend Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday afternoon? If not, the Lane train's coming. He's coming fast with Pete. And the two of the guys, there's nothing better in the world they would ever want to take down their former boss in his own stadium and basically put another pegs in the coffin of Nick Saban. We saw Jimbo get a win with him. We saw Kirby take him out in the national championship game. This could be the third assistant in the past, year and a half, 2 years to beat Alabama. That mystique could start evaporating. This is a big Saturday for Alabama football and a big Saturday for Ole Miss football. Paths of trajectory are at stake. Legacies are at stake on Saturday afternoon. I'm taking the Rebels. I'm taking the Rebels to walk into Tuscaloosa and win by double digits. They are going to tear it down. They are going to plant their proverbial flag in the middle of the field, and they are going to start the beginning of the end for Nick Saban here at Alabama. Ole Miss wins. The over hits. Big dub for Lane Train and the Ole Miss Rebels.
Fresh, that surprised me. A while ago, Saban talked about rat poison and about how he feeds on like the negativity. And I think that over the years, because you've been given so much respect and you've been given so much benefit of the doubt, I think you become soft. And I think that you don't have that fire in your belly as much anymore. I think Alabama's got that fire back right now. And I don't know why I got this feeling. I think they do. Ole Miss is a heck of a test. And Judkins is a heck of a running back. He was an All-American for us. He's got 44 carries on the year and only 145 yards. He's only averaging 3.3 yards a carry. That concerns me a little bit. Because you're gonna need him in your scenario. I think that you can't put this all on Jackson Dart's shoulders and say, hey kid, go out there, here's a football, go win me a football game in Tuscaloosa at Bryant-Denny. That might be the biggest question for me though. Is the mystique of Bryant-Denny and the 100,000, because that 100,000 people that are going to be packed into that stadium, they've watched these first 3 weeks of the season. They've seen everything Alabama's done. And with their own two eyes, they can see that this is not the same Alabama team as old. Yeah, there's great players on this Alabama team. There's going to be guys in the NFL on this Alabama team. They're still stocked with NFL talent. It's just not coming together this year. And you can talk about whether or not that's Tommy Rees' issue, whether or not it's a quarterback thing. The defense has looked okay, which is what gives me hope against them. Can they consistently stay with Ole Miss? Ole Miss does have a decent wide receiving group. They don't have a great wide receiving group. Trey Harris, I like this kid a lot. 5 touchdowns on the year on only 8 catches. That tickles me. I love when a guy just I'm only going to catch touchdowns pretty much. And Jackson Dart, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, taking 5 sacks on the year. Judkins has got to be the key. If he can run all day on Alabama, if he's able to get he doesn't have to be 200 yards on the ground. He needs to get 100 yards on the ground and get two touchdowns. He needs one of those type of games. Take the pressure off of Jackson Dart. If he can, what he's not going to do is he's going to put the pressure on the Alabama players, but then he's also going to make 100,000 people quiet. And that right there is one of the worst things you could do to Alabama, because not only are those players feeling that pressure, but everyone around you, whether they're booing, whether or not they're not cheering you, all of a sudden it gets a lot tougher to win that game because you don't have the crowd behind you. Alabama fans are great. It's no knock against them. But that's hard to watch when your team starts to really struggle and you don't necessarily know what it is. You can't really put your finger on it. You ask the questions, as Saban lost his magic, this dude didn't forget how to coach. He's probably forgotten this season alone, forgotten enough about football than what me and you know combined.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt at all.
This dude knows this stuff. But for some reason, it's not gelling together like it has in years past. And that's what really bothers me. This is going to be the last time I do this, because I'm gonna say this one more time. I think Alabama is a wounded animal sitting in the back of a corner. They've been backed into the corner, and everyone wants to kill them off. Ole Miss has the opportunity to kill off that animal. Either they do it, or Alabama comes out swinging. Because here's what you're going to say. If Alabama comes out and beats Ole Miss in Tuscaloosa, and they're going to have to put some points up, and they're going to have to look good doing it, all of a sudden they're 3-1. They got a win in the SEC. They beat a ranked Ole Miss team, and people will still excuse the Texas loss. People will be like, "Oh, Texas is a great team." I think they're the best team in the country right now. People excuse that loss then. All of a sudden, well, Alabama's not dead yet. Saban's still got more in it. But this is a crossroads for this program, man. This is a true crossroads game. Yes, you have 3 games after this, but you don't play another ranked team for a month. This is the moment Alabama needs. They need this win. They are desperate for this win. Ole Miss is desperate for this win. They're desperate to be the ones to knock off Alabama, because if Alabama has 2 losses, like you said, they're 2-2 in September, with a chance to go 2-3 or 3-2, whatever it is, because there's still one more week left in the month. This is a meaningful game. I'm taking Alabama. I'll take them by a field goal, because I don't know if I'll actually take Ole Miss in the points, but give me Alabama by a field goal in this game. I'll take Alabama. I'll say that the over comes in. I think both of these teams are going to score. I think you're going to see a nice little offensive explosion out of the Tide. And I think that Alabama really will have an interesting time with Jackson Dart and him trying to throw the ball over the place. But if Judkins gets going, watch out. Watch out. Game's over then.
It's funny you mentioned, we're going to wrap up. It's funny you mentioned the mystique of Bryant Denny. There was the Green Bay Packers, Lambeau Field, from the Lombardi era all the way through playoff games, the frozen tundra of Lambeau. Nobody could win there except for the Packers. Something always sort of happened. Packers made their Super Bowl run. They were, championship games. Everything was just things would happen in that stadium. Nobody could win except for the Packers. Michael Vick led an Atlanta Falcon team in there one Saturday night and beat the trash out of the Packers. And at that point, it was kind of like a glass ceiling being shattered. That mystique of no team from the South, no other team could come into Lambeau in January or February or late December and win. And you started seeing more of that more often. And now it's a stadium, but it's not the same fear and aura that it had. That could be the same experience we see on Saturday if Ole Miss takes them out. That's their third time they beat Alabama in the past 8 years. Second time in Bryant Denny. That's the mystique of that protector starts fading away a little bit, and it just becomes it's a daunting 100,000 people, but it's not. I cannot win in that stadium mentality. it really opens the door for other teams to come in there and take more of their cracks at them too. So it's a lot riding on this Saturday afternoon's game in T-Town.
Right. Absolutely. All right, Fresh. Let's go back out to the West Coast. The game that I think everybody is going to be watching just to see what happens because it has become appointment television. 3:30 on ABC, the Colorado Buffaloes and the Sanders Show going to Eugene, Oregon to face the 3-0 Oregon Ducks. Can the Sanders Show go on the road to Eugene there, Fresh? That is the one thing I got to ask. But Oregon is a 21-point favorite in this game. The over-under is set at 71 points. That's a lot of points.
Well, first off, I don't care. Just take the points, folks. Take the points. Neither of these teams are lacking in offense. We'll put it that way right off the bat. I think the first thing I was going to look at is well, Travis Hunter, he's out 3 to 4 weeks, bad injury in that game versus Colorado State. He didn't play as much offense. We got to keep remembering ourselves. He even said it week 1, I play all defense and I earn my offensive reps. That offense is going to miss him and his explosion is fame. But there's players on that entire offense outside of Shedeur Sanders who are very, very capable of putting up points and playing within themselves and playing efficient football. It's going to be a little bit of a loss, but there's tons of guys on the team who are making plays. Weaver being a receiver, one of them. Edwards, the other running back. They're going to find ways to score points. That's not a problem. I'm not really worried about that. Their defense already had issues and was learning, and they weren't really gelled. They've been giving up points, and now you lose your shutdown corner, who is going to be on Troy Franklin for probably the majority of the game. That's a big, big loss. This defense already had issues. They let Colorado State score some points on them. TCU scored on them. Nebraska, you're terrible, so you really don't count. But how is that loss going to – is other players of this defense going to step up? Shiloh Sanders, the safety, Kramari, the corner, the 5-star they got in there, he's going to have to now step into that major role and be one of the lockdown corners. Is he truly up to that 5-star talent? Can he handle that in a big environment? This is going to see how this defense responds. How much have they fixed it? What other adjustments are they going to make? They're not playing just a quarterback. They're playing Bo Nix, who Oregon Bo Nix is year 1 Auburn Bo Nix. The dude can play. Feet, mental ability, understanding the defense, through with his arm. He is going to be creative. He is going to put up points. He is going to move the chains. And there's talent there. Obviously Bucky Irvin at running back. We mentioned Franklin receiver, a host of others. They're going to score. So Colorado's going to have to keep that pace. And their defense is going to have to at least get maybe one stop. Can they get that one stop? That's what I'm really worried about. What does Dion and what does his coaching staff bring to maybe change it up? Do they slow the offensive pace down, maybe give the defense a break? Or do they keep the foot down, all gas, no brakes, and just say, forget it, first one to 100, we might be able to lucky and get a fumble? Who's going to step up and rise up and make plays in that defense to get their fame time, get their spotlight, show they're actually worthy? Because right now, not going to lie, the only people we actually really talk about is Shedeur Sanders, Edwards, Travis Hunter, maybe Shiloh after his 2 picks last week. The 4 of them. Everybody else is just like, you're wearing a Buffalo uniform, but you're kind of riding on the coattails of the celebrities on the team. Who wants to rise up and get their name truly locked in as another star on the squad? That's what I want to see. Oregon, Dan Lanning, you were hired at Oregon to play and build a defense. You were brought here to shut down Lincoln Riley. It's not a coincidence you were hired after Lincoln Riley was hired. As soon as he went to USC, you were brought in to build a defense and recruit elite to Oregon. There's no reason Oregon should not recruit itself. That's a different story for a different day. But they already land high recruits. They're bringing in players. Now it's your time to shine. You have your big matchups coming. This is the first of many that you're going to have against lethal offenses. Can you shut down Shedeur Sanders? What packages can you put in there to confuse him, to limit their explosiveness, to get off the field? That's what I'm actually watching for in this football game. Are you going to earn your stripes as a head coach as making the adjustments and being prepared? You didn't really have it last year versus Washington. You let them come into your house and beat you. That was your one real big game last year because the opener versus Georgia, you got destroyed, wiped that one off, let it go as your first ever game as a head coach. You've had a year to prepare. You even mentioned during the offseason, what has Dion and what has Colorado won? Why are they getting all this pub? As we've seen the past 3 games, they take it personal when somebody does something against them. It's a laundry list. You are now the 4th on that list. How do you back up those words? Jay Norvell and Colorado State, all props to them. They backed up their coach and they showed up on Saturday night and they played a heck of a ball game. Are you going to show up? Apparently, there was things with Nebraska. Matt Rule's defense showed up. Their offense didn't. But now it's your turn. Is your team going to play for you? Are you going to coach your butt off? Are you prepared for this matchup? Because it only gets bigger and better if you keep winning. But if you lose, it could spiral out of control because how talented this conference is. You have a big spot for you right here. This is why you were hired. Can you get the job done? Can you get your first true staple program defining win in your regime? That's what I'm looking for on Saturday. Because all the hype, we've seen it. You know, a big noon kickoff's already going back to Colorado for the Colorado USC game the week after. They're already there for this past 2 weeks. Everybody wants a piece of prime. Can you be the first team to shut down or at least slow the momentum? If you get beat, it's only can you get bigger and bigger and bigger, and your program's going to fade a little bit off the radar. If you win, you make a statement that, hey, you know what? They're great. Colorado's really cool, but we're still here and we're Oregon Ducks, and we've been around for a lot longer, and we're going to get our job done. We're going to keep winning and playing for a title ourselves. This is on you. Can you get your program-defining victory? Bo Nix, can you show up in a big game without turning the ball over and put up 3 or 4 or 5 touchdowns? That's what I'm watching for on Saturday. The 21 points is a lot of points. This game's going to be a shootout. I'm taking Colorado and the points. The Ducks will win. If you go money line, the Ducks are winning. Points wise, give me the Buffaloes. This is gonna be like a 3-point ball game or a 4-point game. It's gonna be very tight. The over will hit back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But Oregon's defense will get only stop, and they'll be the deciding factor in this football game. Oregon wins, but very, very, very close. That's how I see the Saturday afternoon going. But it's gonna be another classic ball game, and the mystique of Shedeur Sanders is continue to grow, win or loss.
It's the Sanders show, man. It's going to on the road here. Listen, Oregon's going to need Bo Nix to be the Texas Tech game Bo Nix there. So far this season, he's been pretty well protected. If Colorado's going to want to have a chance in this game, they're going to have to get pressure against Bo Nix. He's only taken 1 sack out of the year. That's been Bo Nix's MO, especially when he struggled at Auburn, especially when he was facing pressure, especially up the middle. He was going to have to get rid of the ball quickly, makes poor mistakes, usually turns the ball over. Troy, my name should be Clifford Franklin, 6'3" wide receiver. I love this kid. He is a tough matchup. He's gotten 3 touchdowns so far. Oh, you the man, Clifford Franklin. And he is going to be the man without Travis Hunter. And that's the thing. If Hunter was playing for Colorado, this would be the matchup of the day. Like, seeing Franklin go against Hunter, it just would have been an awesome back and forth between the two. Oregon's run the ball really, really well, which is what I think is going to give Colorado the most amount of problems. They have 2 good running backs, Jordan James, the sophomore, Bucky Irvine. Both of them are dynamic. Both are really, really tough runners. The question's going to be, if Oregon gets up 10 points in Eugene gets rocking. Those kids are going. It's a 12:30 kick in Eugene, so they don't really have that much time to go crazy out there. But if Colorado gets behind in this game, and with all the things they're starting to go through, you're coming off an emotional win over Colorado State. How do they handle adversity? They don't have Travis Hunter. Does Sanders have that magic? Does he have the ability to take this game, put this game on his shoulders, and win this game and pull Colorado back up? For me, Colorado has to play from in front in this game. They have to play with the lead and force Oregon to be the ones that come back and beat them. That's going to take Edwards stepping up, Horn's got to step up, Weaver's got to step up, all of those other players that have come to Colorado. It can't just be Sanders in this game. It can't just be, oh man, well, if we had Hunter, we'd be in this game. All of these other kids have to step up. I'm with you, Fresh. Give me Colorado in that 21. I'm loving that right there. I would hammer that one right there. Because I really don't think Dion would let his team lose by 21 points. I think if Colorado loses by 22 points, that entire team is walking back from Eugene. Like, you're walking all the way back to Boulder. The 71, I love that too. Give me the over as well. I got Oregon winning this game, but close. Touchdown game here, and I'll put it on Bo Nix. Bo Nix shows his experience and wins this football game.
I mean, if Colorado goes out there and just not just wins, but wins convincingly, the hype train will be through the roof, Rocky Mountain high.
Right.
And then you have undefeated USC at undefeated Colorado for a noon kick next week. It's mind blowing that that's even the case, but that's where we would be at if this happens.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
Yeah, I'm not. If Colorado wins this, I'm not doubting them anymore on this season. Give me them rest of the way. All right, Fresh. A game that's lost a little bit of its luster, but maybe have gotten a little bit of it back here. The Florida State Seminoles traveling to Clemson. This originally was a night game. It's been shifted to a noon kick. Ooh, Florida State at the time of record is a 2-point favorite. Coming off a win. Over under is set at 55 here. This is it for Florida State. I mean, realistically, this is it for Florida State. They win this game, and they can really run through the rest of the ACC. Clemson, here's how you pull yourself back off the map.
Well, they call it Death Valley for a reason, and I got a feeling this could be the death of the Dabo Swinney Clemson run if they don't get the victory on Saturday. This could be the end of something special. We've seen some kinks in the armor recently, but if you lose this ball game and lose it in a very ugly way, it's going to start spiraling pretty quickly. Where you revert back to Clemsoning and you revert back to all of that, and the small little window there you had was fantastic. So this is really more of a pride of the program. Dabo, your entire imprint on it, very similar with the Nick Saban situation. You haven't obviously been you don't have the same mystique that Saban does, but your run is at stake. Your legacy of being on campus is at stake. How does this Clemson football team in the pride, how do they show up on Saturday afternoon? Florida State's last loss was October 15th, 2022 in Doak to Clemson, 34-28. You don't think they're kind of pissed off about that? You don't think that's been lingering in their minds? Jordan Travis versus Boston College. If you aren't watching, if you haven't seen, late second quarter, went down hard on his left elbow, left shoulder. Held it in basically did not move it for the rest of that entire half. Had it kind of like a sling. Some people thought it may be broken. Maybe it was a stinger. Maybe it was a dislocated shoulder. Maybe elbow, like whatever. He came out and played a little bit in the second half. Did not look comfortable. It's not his throwing shoulder, but did not look comfortable. And that lack of offensive firepower, his lack of playing with freedom without worrying about that shoulder, it hindered them. They did not look the same. They allowed BC to get back in the ballgame, and they survived by 2 points. BC had 18 penalties. They're not getting 18 Clemson penalties on Saturday. How are they going to be able to make up that lack of a second half? They're just sort of let down. Is Jordan Travis truly hurt, or is it just a minor stinger? How is that going to impact? Is he going to be thinking more about falling and taking a hit on that left side of his body and not completing passes to Coleman or to anyone else in that offense? Are they going to focus more on the running game, giving it off to that group, that solid groups of running backs, and maybe let them handle the brunt of it and protect Travis? Because I'm not going to lie, if Travis isn't at quarterback or he's not fully healthy, this is a different Florida State offense. His mobility, his be able to create on the go is what makes him dangerous, and also helps the offense completely just explode because it creates passing lanes that weren't ever there. The on-the-fly play action, the broken plays, is truly what Travis is special at and makes that offense even more lethal than what it is. If he is playing to protect the arm, if he is not 100% healthy, that offense is now limited a little bit. I'm not saying completely shut down, but it's not the same. And that might give Clemson's defense a chance to be able to make some plays in this football game. We've talked about how great Clemson's defense is, and they recruit other players. Jeremiah Trotter, Barrett Carter, two great linebackers. Not going to doubt that whatsoever. They have not looked the same since Breezy and Murphy and the rest of those guys have all left after last year and the year before. Who in that secondary is going to want to step up because the receivers and the talent in that Florida State offense is going to punish them if they don't make plays? Is it going to be Jalen Phillips, Sherrod Covell, Avian Terrell, Andrew McCaba, Khalil Barnes, Toronto Pride Jr., R.J. Mickens, Sheridan Jones? Which one of you is going to show up and make a play and get off the field? Who's going to get that pick? Who's going to come off the edge for that sack? Who's going to strip that ball and get a fumble? Who's going to get that stop on third down? Who's going to get that pass defense on a big critical play? Who's going to show up and show that your defense still has pride? It can't just fall on the two linebackers because obviously with the receiver talent and the running backs and his mobility, they'll still expose good linebackers. You need defensive linemen to show up and solidify the line of scrimmage, but you as a secondary have got to shut down Florida State. And you've got to be there and allow that pass rush to get home. It's a two-way thing. Pass rush makes you look good. Your coverage makes them look good. You've got to be there. If you don't show up, you're going to be destroyed. And you know what? If anything else, your NFL stock is what you want to have at Pride, not just for Clemson Tiger football program, but if you get exposed, your NFL stock as a prospect might take a hit. So go in there and lock it down. Spend extra time in the meeting rooms. Take the extra effort practice because you're going to be running a lot on Saturday afternoon, and you're going to need to be there, and you're going to be sharp. The last time Clemson started 0-2 in ACC play was 2010. They ended with 4 ACC losses and 6 losses total, 7 if you include the bowl game. You already have lost to Duke. If you lose to Florida State, you're 0-2. You're no longer even a contender for anything at that point. And now we start thinking, can this team even get out of their own hole? Will they have 4 or 5 losses? Will this be a 6-6 football team? Cade Klubnik has not shown me anything as a quarterback. Do I really trust this passing attack? Do I trust this Clemson offense to show up in a big game? They had a big game in their Orange Bowl versus Tennessee. He looked horrible. The offense was terrible. Will we see a different product? If not, Clemson's done on both sides of the ball. Will Shipley, you were this big-time recruit. You feel like you've been there for 30 years. What will you do on Saturday? Will you actually show the talent that everyone's really been expecting to see, catching the ball in the backfield, breaking people's ankles, running somebody over, scoring a couple touchdowns, or are you just a running back? Because Clemson, they're known for some stud running backs. C.J. Spiller is one of them that comes to mind. Are you going to be in that class, or are you just going to be another guy who I got to sit in the running back room, for 3 or 4 years when I was on campus, but I didn't actually take over the moment and show up in a big game? I'm challenging the entire Clemson program. The entire Clemson, this is a top to bottom situational, organizational pride on the line. If you do not show up, the reign of fear in the ACC is done. And you are no longer a flag bearer of that conference. Your small window of relevancy, yeah, you got 2 national championships, but it is evaporated if you do not show up and at least play with heart against Florida State. Can you win? I think so. You have talent. Will you win? That's a different story. And that's what I want to see. Will the Clemson Tigers, will the fan base show up? Will Death Valley be Death Valley, or will it be your funeral? Florida State's favored by 1.5. I can't go against them right now. They're too talented. Florida State wins this running away. I think there's just way too much talent, and I don't see Clemson playing a full 4-quarter football game. I saw that team quit versus Duke, and that was just for Duke. Florida State's better than that. Florida State will destroy them. This game won't even make it to the 4th quarter. It will put Dabo Swinney on the hot seat. Obviously, he has 2 national championships and played for another, but it will start steaming up of this program has lost its focus and is going in a bad direction. And Florida State will put themselves in the driver's seat, not just for ACC crown, but a playoff spot with this dominating win. The over will hit because of Florida State alone. Knowles roll.
My question is, does Florida State play tight? Because this is the last major hurdle to me in their track to get to the college football playoff. As early as it is, week 4, we talked about this during our season preview. The rest of their slate, Virginia Tech home, Syracuse home, Duke at home. I know Duke's playing well. They got to travel to Wake Forest. They got to travel to Pitt. Miami, which is looking better, has to come into Tallahassee. They also have Florida at the end of the year. They got to go into Gainesville. So there's a couple of questions there, but I don't see anything on this schedule that really screams like this team is going to have the horses and the talent to keep up with the Seminoles. Clemson does. Clemson still, they haven't really put together, and I think they're still reeling from that Duke loss. They're really going to have to build themselves back up. I think it's going to come down to a running backs here, Fresh. Benson or Shipley, who has the better game. Whoever has the better game in the running department, that's going to be the difference maker in this game. Florida State has got to force Clemson into turnovers. That's what Duke did. Clemson outgained Duke up and down the field, but they lost the game because they were turned the ball over when it mattered the most. Can Florida State do that? Florida State, prolific offense. It's going to be tough. This is the best defense that they're going to face. I think LSU was pretty good, but there's still a lot of questions in that LSU defense. A lot of transfer kids coming in. This defense has been together for a couple of years. There's a lot of talented football players on that Clemson defense. And I think same thing that we talked about with Alabama. Clemson's back against the wall. They're wounded. They know that their national perception is slipping. It's like sand running through their fingertips as they're trying to grasp and hold on to it. And the problem is that they see Florida State climbing the mountain and climbing the mountain very, very fast. This is your opportunity to knock Florida State off the mountain, bring them down a peg or two, and say, hold on. The ACC still goes through Death Valley. It still goes through the Clemson Tigers. As much as I can't stand Dabo Swinney, he is a good football coach, and he is going to have Klubenek ready to go. I'm expecting a big game out of Bo Collins. I'm really expecting Clemson to put the pressure on Florida State's defense. That's what I need to see. Did BC expose some things that you can exploit? I know you'll talk about the penalties and stuff but you still got to get the ball into the end zone. You can't get a penalty and put the ball into the end zone. Did BC show Clemson something to exploit? Is Florida State, if they did, is Florida State a good enough football team to fix those issues in a week? This is a big-time matchup. I'm going with the team that's wounded and that's going to come out swinging and going to come out swinging at home. Give me Clemson in an upset. I'm going to say Clemson wins this game. We're going to be talking about the Clemson Tigers and saying, okay, they're punching their way back out. I still am not sold on Clemson. Not saying that they're going to win the ACC. But you're right. This is a pride moment. And this is a thing where you're going to sit there and say, hey, we're still around. We're still in this conference. And we still can kick your butt any day of the week here at Florida State. If Florida State wins this, pencil them into the playoff the rest of the way. I mean, realistically, I don't see anything, at least to the first playoff ranking, unless Florida State completely gets ravaged by injuries or something else happens. Vegas has this game close for a reason. So I'm taking Clemson the upset. And you know what, Fresh? Give me the under in this game. 55 is a lot of points. I think this is going to be tight. I think it's going to be a little lower scoring than what people think. I'm going to say right around the 49-50 mark for this. Over-under set 55, so give me that right now. But I think it's going to really come down to the line play, which offensive line can open up a big hole for whether it's Shipley or Benson, and then who can hit a big-time pass down the field. Is it Johnny Wilson? Is it Bo Collins? What is? And how much is Jordan Travis injured? We don't get injury reports in college. They don't tell us any of those things. Jordan Travis, I don't know how bad that non-throwing arm is, but I've seen NFL quarterbacks take injuries to their non-throwing arm and really impact their ability to lead a football team. Give me Clemson in this game, and I'll take the under.
There's also early forecast calling for some rain during the football game, and as we've seen multiple weeks, multiple years, noon kickoffs, teams are kind of sleepy. It's an early start to the day, and they might get a slow start, so should be an interesting one.
All right, Fresh, let's go to our last game. This is the game of the week, the one people have been waiting for. A rematch from last year. Ohio State is a 3-point favorite traveling to South Bend, Indiana. Over-under is set at 55.5 points. This game is going to be one in the trenches in my eyes, Fresh. Which defensive line can beat the offensive line? What say you?
This is going to be a physical brouhaha battle. It's going to be last year, if you watched it, the opener, it was a physical fight for the first half, and then eventually talent sort of Ohio State pulled away, and they made adjustments. This Notre Dame team is better than that one week one last year. It's going to be very physical at the line of scrimmages, offensive line, defensive line. You're going to hear the pads are going to be popping. Tune in, turn the volume up on NBC. It's going to be popping. It's a fact that Notre Dame has struggled with AP top 10 teams. Going back to 2016, versus an AP top 10 team, the Irish are 3-9. 2 of those wins versus Clemson, 1 versus Stanford. All 3 did come in South Bend, though. This team, the players change, but the same result. And I could have kept going farther back from 2016. They get in the top 10 matches. It's been a bugaboo. It's been a curse. They just have not had the number to be able to get those victories in those big, big games. This is a prime chance. You finally have a legit quarterback on your football team in Sam Hartman. Can he be the difference maker? Can he make the calls? He's looked fantastic so far on offense. He's got the offense booing. Can he be the leader and the change agent for the Irish to get them over the hump and win a big game? Their defense played phenomenal when they beat Clemson the past couple times. But this time they're going to need to be in a shootout a little bit because the offense for Ohio State and for their defense is so talented. They're going to have to find ways to score points to keep themselves in the ballgame. It's the first real test for McCord, too, on the other side. Western, Youngstown State, Indiana, Western Kentucky. Now you're going on the road to South Bend, a rowdy, starving Irish fan base. Will they show up and make it intimidating for them? Now, one other little antidote. Irish fans don't exactly pack their own stadium. 2017, Georgia was going to play Notre Dame. It was a sea of red in South Bend. And it made a difference in the fourth quarter because it wasn't loud when Georgia was on the field, and it was loud when Notre Dame was playing offense because of all the Georgia fans in the building. Did Ohio State fans buy up all these tickets? Will we see scarlet and gray surrounding the Irish as opposed to the Irish actually maintaining a home field advantage? That's one thing I truly want to see on Saturday. Where is that advantage coming from? Did Ohio State fans buy up the seats? Because if that's the case, it makes the McCord's experience that much easier. It's not a violent, raucous, road environment for you to go into. You're going to hear your own band playing. You're going to hear your own fans cheering. It's going to make it easy. How did Notre Dame fans show up for this game on Saturday? That's going to be a big, big play at night. How good truly is Notre Dame, too? We've seen them light up Navy. NC State, they had the rain, in and out, lightning to play. You can put up points against anybody. How good truly is Notre Dame? This is going to be the big test of that program, what Coach Freeman has built there, what he's overhauled. Obviously, last year they beat Clemson. They had a nice little run. They beat Syracuse. They made a huge comeback for South Carolina. We started strong this year, but this is the test because game one in your career, last year, you lost it late. How much have you changed that program in the past 12 and a half, 13 months? This is a big – eyes are watching for the growth of the Notre Dame program and recruiting and just team mojo. Have you made adjustments? Have you changed? Can you take advantage of this? The 2023 season is the first time the Irish have scored 40-plus points in 4 straight games to open a season since 1900, 123 years ago. This offense is putting up points. Is it because they're playing bad teams or because this offense is actually truly lethal and they can survive and produce in any situation? That's what I'm really going to, Hartman's one thing, but the overall estimate at running back, the receivers, the offensive line, all playing in sync, putting points on, and being ruthless offensively and scoring at will without issue. They're going to need points in this football game because they're playing a lethal offense in Ohio State. Can they show up on Saturday and get the job done? Both defenses giving up less than 235 yards a game, which puts them both top 4 nationally. So these defenses have been locking people down, getting outs, getting people off the field, getting stops, getting turnovers. Which one blinks on Saturday? Because both these offenses have talented players. Which one blinks? Who owns the line of scrimmage? Which quarterback makes a mistake? Which defense forces a quarterback to make a mistake? It's also calling for rain. Low 70s. Is that going to make the ball slippery? Which running back's going to cough it up? Henderson, Estime, which quarterback? To steal Chambers and Eichenberg on that defense and that Jim Knowles defense. What special looks do they have for Hartman? They've also progressed since this first time. They met last year in the opener. Nobody really knew what they were going to get. They were kind of working through some things. They have definitely grown. What special items do they have for Hartman in that offense? What looks are they going to give to really throw some confusion and really give him some, for the first part, adversity for this Notre Dame offense? Because they have not had any adversity all season long. Where is this going to change? That's what I'm also looking for. It worries me with McCord coming in and really not showing any major flashes, but I think the overall depth of Ohio State and Ryan Day's ability to coach in big games is a big thing we haven't really thought about. He might not have beaten Michigan since 2019, but he definitely has a team prepared to play in other big games. And you know what? They actually show up in those Michigan games too. There's maybe late in the fourth quarter, they haven't had enough juice. He is the better coach. He has been more battle tested than Coach Freeman. I think that's going to pay off. He's going to actually coach his best game at Ohio State on Saturday night. Ryan Day is going to silence a lot of the doubters, basically say, I'm in charge of this program. I know what I'm doing. I am the right head coach for this program. Do not put me on the hot seat. Take me off. We're going to come out firing on all cylinders. We have been preparing for this moment the entire time. I have a defense ready to go. My offense is ready to go. We're going to put on a show. Buckeyes roll. Buckeyes roll big and make a statement that they are definitely a playoff team and they're going to not to be forgotten. They're not playing second fiddle to Michigan or anyone else. They are on a mission to make the playoff and win a national championship, and it's going to really be a statement game on Saturday night in South Bend. It's a 3.5 points. They're going to cover that going away. The Buckeyes with a big Saturday night and storm out of South Bend with a big win.
I like your confidence there, Fresh. It's called irrational confidence for a reason. It's going to come down to which team is going to be able to break through the offensive line, who's going to be able to get pressure. So Ohio State going to be able to send JT and Sawyer and Hall and that whole crew and Eichenberg and Steele Chambers? Are they going to be able to get after Sam Hartman? Or is it going to be the Irish? Is it going to be guys like Kaiser, or is it going to be Burnham or Mills? Who's it going to be? Bertram? Who's it going to be to get after McCord? The game will be decided, though, by which running back has a better game. Is it going to be SMA? Is it going to be Travion Henderson? If they're able to run, whoever's going to be able to run the football to make life easy on the quarterback, that's going to be a big thing for them. Sam Hartman is going into this game. I went back and I looked at the last 2 years. Sam Hartman is 2-4 in ranked games over the last 2 years. Now, again, he's at Wake Forest, not at Notre Dame. He's got a little bit different talent. He's got 19 touchdowns, 11 interceptions in those 2 games, so he does play fairly well in that. My question is Notre Dame going to use the same defensive format that they used last year? Last year, they ran 2 high safety just basically to keep everything in front of them. They kept 2 safeties deep the entire time, kept the big play. Ohio State dinked and dunked throughout this. That was one of my biggest criticism, is that they kept on trying to throw the ball. When you looked at me, you wanted to scream, well, run the football, run the football. You have a healthy stable of running backs, and Henderson, Trainum, Mine Williams, Evan Pryor, you could throw a couple of carries to as well. That's going to be the really big thing. If you see those 2 safeties, are you able to just run the football and impose your will? I'm real excited about this Buckeyes defense. The offense gives me a lot of concerns just because I want to see more on McCord, but this could be the game where he silences those concerns. Last week, you held one of the best offenses in all of college football to under 300 yards total offense. And if you take out the first couple of drives, that they basically stifled that offense. We heard this for years, Fresh. When they hired Jim Knowles away from Oklahoma State, it was always year 2 of Jim Knowles' defense. Year 2. And obviously year 1 was going to be better because you went from Kerry Combs, who didn't know what he was doing, to Jim Knowles, who kind of gave you this different structure. But we started to see this in year number 2. In year number 2 under Knowles here. They're getting more pressure. The guys are running to the football. The scheme's better. Denzel Burke is back to playing like an All-American on the outside there. he is going to have a very, very tough matchup with whether or not he draws Tyree, whether he is going to go up against Jaden Thomas, whether it's going to be Merriweather, Greathouse, whoever it is that he's going to be matched up on the outside. Can he win those matchups? Or is this Notre Dame offensive line going to hold their ground and be able to keep Hartman protected in this game? Notre Dame is at home in this one. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a hard-fought game between these two. This is the type of game that scares me and where Ohio State usually has a tendency to lose a game like this, just because I had a feeling that we're waiting for a letdown game of some sort. I'm going to take the Buckeyes to win. They're going to win this game in the fourth quarter. I'm going against my gut that's telling me here to be careful around this game. I'm going against that. I'm going to go with my irrational confidence. Ohio State wins by a touchdown late in the game. People start celebrating and really start to say, look, Ryan Day is one of the best head coaches in college football. Yes, he's got to beat the school up north still. He's still got to make some more noise in the playoffs, maybe win a national title here. But it doesn't get a whole lot better than Ryan Day. He's a great coach. He's going to have these kids ready to play. And that's nothing to say against Marcus Freeman, because Marcus Freeman is well on his way of being a great head coach. But this could, if Notre Dame wins, there's Marcus Freeman's signature win, and Notre Dame sets themselves up real nicely next week, having to go to Durham to place the Duke Blue Devils, who are also ranked. Watch out for that football game as well. But give me Ohio State. I think the under is going to come in on this game. 55.5 is a lot of points. I think this is going to be back and forth. I think points are going to be a little more scarce than what we think, especially if the rain comes in and starts raining real hard. We're going to have to keep the ball on the ground and let the running backs take over in this game. But give me Ohio State by a touchdown, and we'll see what we have from there, Fresh.
So if Notre Dame wins and they go to Duke and Duke's undefeated, can we have Mike Breen and Coach K as the honorary captains?
I would love that. That'd be amazing.
Or
That'd be
no, they have
amazing.
a free throw shooting contest for whoever wins the coin toss.
Right. Do that instead of a coin toss. That'd be fantastic. All right, Fresh. Another great weekend. It's locked and loaded here. We've gone long on this one, but we wanted to make sure we gave a lot of respect. And we didn't even talk about two other games. App State at Wyoming. You got Memphis at Missouri. Those are going to be great games as well. But we're locked and loaded. Guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like I said at the beginning. Hit the notification bell. We are cruising our way to 1,000 subs there. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow us wherever you get your podcast from, whether it's Google, Apple, Spotify. I don't know them all. You guys know that. But like, subscribe, leave us that 5-star review, because you know Fresh and I were those 5-star prospects. Want to send a special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. Make sure you're visiting SpinnableSports.com, because the Irrational Confidence Podcast is part of SpinnableSports.com. So make sure you're checking out the website. And with that, enjoy the football, folks, because this is going to be one of the most loaded weekends we have in about a month.
Get the antacids ready, buddy. It's going to be a spicy week of football. Everybody buckle
Absolutely.
up. Get ready for Saturday. And with that, bye, y'all.